There are people who enter your life and vanish without a trace. But then there are the ones who leave an imprint, a mark so deep it becomes part of who you are. That was you. You were never just another moment. You were never just another chapter. You were the turning point, the transformation. You didn't just love him, you challenged him, you awakened something in him. And that kind of presence doesn't just fade away. He may tell his friends he's over you. He may post pictures with someone new, laugh a little louder, walk with fake confidence. But deep down, when the lights go off, when it's just him and his thoughts, he knows the truth. You're still there. You didn't just touch his life, you shaped it. And once a soul has been stretched by real love, it can never shrink back to what it was before. He remembers how you spoke to him, not just with your words, but with your presence. You saw him when he couldn't see himself. You believed in him even when he was too lost to believe in himself. And now he's trying to fill that void with noise, with distractions, with anything that keeps him from admitting he misses the one who made him feel whole. But here's what he underestimated. He thought your absence would be a momentary discomfort, a bump in the road, something he could numb with time or replace with attention. What he didn't see coming was the silence, the emptiness, the realization that real love doesn't just walk in every day, that being understood, truly seen, and deeply loved by a woman of depth, that's rare. That's once in a lifetime. He thought he could move on, but you weren't something to move on from. You were a mirror. You reflected who he was and who he was afraid to become. You challenged him to rise, and when he couldn't meet that, he left. But even now, he carries you in the way he speaks, in the choices he makes, in the quiet moments that hit harder than he's willing to admit. So when he says he moved on, understand this. He moved away, but not forward. Because when a woman like you touches a man's life with truth, with love, with vision, she becomes unforgettable. Not in a romanticized way, but in a spiritual one. You awaken something eternal. And once awakened, it never sleeps again. That's why it's impossible. He didn't lose a relationship. He lost himself the moment he lost you. And now he has to live with that truth. He thought distance would heal him. He thought if he walked far enough, met enough new people, stayed busy enough, maybe, just maybe, he could forget the way you made him feel. That if he created enough noise, it would drown out the silence your absence left behind. But healing doesn't come from running. It comes from confronting. And that's something he never did. See, when a man walks away from something real, something sacred, something that demanded his growth, he doesn't just leave the relationship behind. He leaves a part of himself behind too. The part of him that you were nurturing, supporting, and calling out with love and strength. He may have left thinking he could find peace and freedom, but what he didn't realize is that peace doesn't come from avoiding discomfort. It comes from transforming through it. He's living now with a version of himself that feels smaller, not because you diminished him, but because without your presence, he's no longer being challenged to rise. Without your love, your honesty, your fire, he's not being called higher. And deep down, he knows that. That's why he can't rest. That's why the new conversations feel shallow, why the late nights don't satisfy, why the freedom feels more like emptiness than empowerment. You weren't just a relationship. You were a mirror showing him what he could be, what he was capable of. You saw beyond his surface. You pushed past his ego, and that terrified him. That's why he ran. Not because you were too much, but because he wasn't ready for someone who saw him so clearly. Now, he's realizing that the healing he hoped for through distance isn't happening. In fact, the farther he runs, the more he circles back mentally to the moments he thought he could forget. Your laughter, your insight, your presence, your standards, it haunts him, not like a ghost, but like a memory of potential he let slip through his fingers. And this is the part that stings for him the most. He knows that no matter how many people he meets, they will never match your frequency. Because real connection isn't common, real depth is rare. And the healing he thought distance would bring, that only comes when you're brave enough to face what you lost. And he's not there yet. So he's not over you, he's just lost. Lost in the very space he thought would save him. He thought time would erase you. That if he gave it enough days, enough months, maybe even a year or two, the memory of you would fade like an old photograph. But what he underestimated is that time doesn't heal what the heart hasn't let go of. Time doesn't make someone disappear from the soul when that someone helped awaken it. See, when you impact a man on a soul level, you don't just pass through, you leave fingerprints. Imprints that no calendar, no clock, no ticking second can erase. And he knows it now. He tries to go on with his life, smiling, working, dating. Outwardly, it looks like he's doing fine. But behind that smile is a mind that still rewinds the moments he had with you. The way you looked at him with belief, the way you called him out with grace, the way you stood firm and loved loud. You weren't just a moment. You were a movement in his life. And movements don't vanish. They echo. He didn't expect to still feel you in quiet moments. He didn't expect your voice to live in the back of his mind, reminding him of who he was becoming when he was with you. It's not obsession, it's recognition. Recognition that he lost something timeless while chasing something temporary. That your presence brought a kind of peace that chaos could never counterfeit. You see, people like to pretend that time is a healer, but time without intention is just delay. And he delayed facing himself. He delayed processing the loss. He delayed admitting that you weren't just a good thing, you were a necessary thing. Necessary for his growth, his grounding, his greatness. But in the moment, his ego couldn't see that. His pride needed space, and now that he has it, the silence is louder than your voice ever was. He scrolls through social media, and even if you're not there, he imagines how you're doing. He wonders if you still think of him, if a part of you still holds on like he does, and that wondering, it eats at him, because time was supposed to free him, but all it's done is remind him of what he let go. Now he's beginning to understand that you don't move on from a soul connection. You grow through it. You learn from it. You're shaped by it, but you don't erase it. And deep down, he's starting to realize maybe it's not about forgetting you. Maybe it's about finally becoming the man he was supposed to be when you believed in him. And that realization, that's what keeps him up at night. He thought moving on meant replacing you. That if he could find someone new, someone who laughed at his jokes, filled the space beside him, answered his calls, it would mean he had truly moved forward. But what he's learning now, quietly and painfully, is that people are not placeholders. You can't swap souls like outfits and expect the fit to feel the same. He tried to plug someone else into the space you once filled, but it doesn't work that way. Love doesn't operate like math. There's no simple substitution. The truth is, when someone has seen the rawest parts of you and still chose to love you there, they leave a mark that doesn't fade with time, it deepens. You didn't just bring affection, you brought alignment. You didn't just touch his heart, you challenged his spirit. And the thing is, most people avoid that kind of intensity. They want comfort, not conviction. So when he tried to replace you, he realized no one else challenges him like you did. No one else sees through him like you did. No one else speaks to the part of him that you awakened. He might be with someone right now, smiling for pictures, going on dates, even saying the right things. But the connection is surface. It doesn't rattle him. It doesn't move him. It doesn't demand his growth. Because what you had wasn't casual. It was catalytic. You didn't show up to keep him the same. You showed up to evolve him. And that kind of love, it stays. Now he's learning that moving on isn't about finding someone new. It's about becoming someone new. And until he does that, no matter how far he runs, how many arms he falls into, a part of him will always feel like he's still standing right where he left you. He convinced himself that detachment was strength, that if he could act unbothered, post like he's unfazed, laugh loudly in public and stay silent in private, then surely he was over it, over you. But silence isn't peace, and pretending not to care is the loudest form of denial. You see, the ones who truly move on don't have to announce it. They live it. They embody it. But when someone keeps trying to prove they've let go, they haven't. They're still wrestling with what they lost. There's a difference between distraction and healing, and he chose distraction. He filled his time, filled his feed, filled his nights, but he couldn't fill the void. Because healing requires stillness, and stillness forces you to feel. He didn't want to sit with the truth that losing you meant losing something deeper than comfort. It meant losing the version himself that was becoming better because of you. You didn't just love him, you inspired him. And now, every attempt to distract himself only brings him closer to that realization. He's beginning to notice the weight of your absence in subtle ways, in the way no one checks him when he's slipping, and how empty accomplishments feel without someone to genuinely share them with. In the silence that follows a moment he would have instinctively texted you about. That's when it hits him. Not all losses are loud. Some echo quietly through the daily routines, the simple moments, the spaces you used to occupy. He thought moving on was a sprint, but it's a mirror. And what he sees in that mirror now is someone still haunted by what he pretends not to feel. He thought the pain would eventually fade, like the sting of a scraped knee that heals over time. But what he didn't understand, what he couldn't have possibly anticipated, is that emotional wounds don't heal with time alone. They heal through processing, through understanding, through owning the feelings that come with them. And he never truly allowed himself to face what he lost. He kept running, pretending that by keeping busy, by filling his schedule with distractions, he could outrun the grief. But it doesn't work like that. Grief doesn't just vanish, it waits. It sits with you in the quiet moments when you're alone, with your thoughts, in the spaces you can't fill with noise. For a while, he convinced himself that he was fine, that his heart had moved on, that his mind had moved on. But the truth is, the heart doesn't forget easily, and the mind can convince you of anything, but it can't erase the deep-rooted connection that was forged. He can tell himself he's done, that he's moved on, but every time he thinks about you, it's like a light flickers on inside him. It's a reminder of the intensity, the passion, the way your energy once intertwined. And no matter how many new experiences, new faces, or new places he fills his life with, none of them will ever match the depth of what you had. You see, when a soul is touched deeply by someone, that connection doesn't just go away, it lingers. And every time he thinks he's erased you, every time he thinks he's put it all behind him, the feelings come rushing back. They might come in the form of a song, a memory, the smell of a familiar place. And when they do, it's like the weight of everything he never fully acknowledged crashes down on him. He never processed it. He never let himself feel the depth of the loss. And now every time he tries to move forward, he's carrying the burden of unresolved emotion. It's like trying to run a race with a heavy weight on your shoulders. You can keep moving, but it slows you down. You can keep pretending it's fine, but eventually it will catch up to you. And that's where he is now, caught between pretending to have moved on and the truth that he's still grieving, still healing, still processing everything that he lost. The pain is not just in the breakup, it's in what he didn't do, what he didn't give, what he didn't say, the things he left unsaid because he was too proud to admit his own vulnerability. Now, every time he tries to let go, it's like the ghost of those missed opportunities haunts him. The moments where he should have been stronger, should have been more present, should have held on a little longer. Those thoughts become like chains, pulling him back into a space where healing is harder to reach. The reality is, he's in a battle between his mind and his heart. His mind is telling him it's time to move on, but his heart is still tethered to you. Every time he tries to step forward, his heart pulls him back. He's torn between what he wants and what he needs. And what he needs, more than anything, is to sit with the emotions he's avoided for so long. He needs to let himself feel the loss, the hurt, the longing. Only then will he truly be able to heal. Only then will he be able to move forward. Not just physically, but emotionally, with the weight of the past lifted off his shoulders. The pain won't disappear by running from it. It will only dissipate when he stops and faces it. When he stops pretending he's fine and admits that he's still holding on to something that meant more to him than he was willing to acknowledge. Until he does that, the memories will continue to rise, the feelings will continue to haunt him, and he will continue to feel incomplete. It's not easy, it's not simple, but it's necessary. If he truly wants to move on, if he truly wants to find peace, he has to confront what's holding him back. And that's the hardest part. Acknowledging that moving on isn't just about time passing. It's about confronting the pain, facing the heartache, and finding a way to let go in a way that's not just physical, but emotional and spiritual. That's the only way he'll truly be free. Only then will he realize that the pain he's running from is the very thing that will set him free. And so he needs to make a choice, either keep running or face what's been holding him captive. Because only by embracing the healing process can he truly move on. Moving on is a concept that we all hear about, but it's not as simple as it sounds. It's like trying to convince yourself that a part of you can just disappear because you've made the decision to let go. But what most people don't realize is that the mind can lie. The heart doesn't forget that easily. He may have convinced himself that it's over, that he has moved on, but deep down, the emotions are still there. For the connection doesn't just vanish with time or with physical distance. It stays with you, almost like a shadow that follows you around, lingering in the quiet moments. Let's be real about this. When you are connected to someone, your heart, your mind, and your soul are intertwined with theirs. That doesn't just disappear overnight because you decide it's time to let go. Emotions are not logical. They don't obey the rules that our minds create. The mind tells us to move on, to forget, to stop thinking about it, but the heart, it refuses to listen. It holds on, sometimes quietly, sometimes painfully, because it knows that something significant was lost. He may think that he's moved on because he's stopped talking about it, or because he's trying to fill his life with new experiences. He's telling himself that everything is fine, that the past doesn't matter, that there's no reason to keep looking back. But here's the thing about the past. It doesn't just disappear because you try to ignore it. The lessons, the pain, the memories, they stay with you, and they shape who you are moving forward. The truth is, moving on isn't about pretending it didn't matter. It's about acknowledging that it did. It's about honoring the connection that was once there, even if it's no longer part of your present reality. When you deny the impact something or someone had on your life, you end up carrying it with you, unknowingly, for much longer than you should. Instead of moving forward with a clean slate, you're dragging the past behind you, like baggage that you haven't properly unpacked. He might have thought that he could just move on because he wasn't with her anymore, but the emotional impact of that relationship has its own timeline. It's not bound by his rules or his schedule. It's the emotional weight that doesn't just disappear because he tells himself it's over. It lingers in the background, sometimes creeping up when he's least expecting it. Now, let's talk about the real cost of not truly moving on. It's not just emotional. It impacts your ability to truly grow. When you hold on to feelings that you haven't processed or let go of, it prevents you from fully stepping into the next chapter of your life. It's not just trapped in the past. He's holding back his future. The energy and space that could be filled with new opportunities, new connections, and new growth are still being consumed by something that's no longer serving him. He's stuck not because he doesn't want to move forward, but because he's still holding on to the idea that the past doesn't matter. When you allow yourself to feel, when you allow yourself to grieve the loss, to face the fact that it didn't work out, you free up that energy. You create space for something new. And here's the harsh truth. Sometimes it takes longer to heal because we resist it. We resist the pain, we resist the grief, we resist facing the uncomfortable emotions. But only by embracing it fully can we truly let go. Only then can we release what's holding us back and be ready to move forward, to grow, and to experience new possibilities without the weight of the past. When he thinks he's moved on, he might have stopped looking back, but the truth is that he hasn't truly let go. The feelings, the memories, the lessons, these things don't simply fade because time has passed. They stay with him, they linger, and they influence his future relationships, his future decisions, and his growth. Until he faces them, until he allows himself to process the emotions that come with the end of something meaningful, he will always be carrying a piece of that past with him. The beauty of healing, of moving on in the truest sense, is that it doesn't mean erasing what was. It means integrating those experiences into your life in a way that empowers you, that propels you forward. It's not about forgetting, it's about accepting, learning, and allowing yourself to be whole again. He might think that by pretending it's all behind him, he's protecting himself. But the truth is, he's only postponing the healing process. And that's a dangerous place to be in because it holds him back from becoming the person he's meant to be. In the end, he has to realize that moving on is not about pushing emotions away. It's about acknowledging them, processing them, and then deciding to step into the future with a clear heart. Moving on isn't easy, but it's the only way to move forward with peace, growth, and the potential to experience new, beautiful things in life. He may have convinced himself that he's moved on, but the truth is, the past doesn't just vanish because you say it's over. There's a deeper, more complex part of the heart and mind that continues to hold on. Emotions are not something you can just shut off with a switch. You can pretend, you can push them down, you can distract yourself with new activities or even relationships. But the reality is, those emotions are still there, buried beneath the surface. Then when something triggers them, when a memory or an experience resurfaces, you realize that the past is never as easily erased as you thought. What happens when we don't acknowledge this? We live in a kind of denial. We fool ourselves into thinking we're free, that we've let go. But in reality, we're only suppressing. We might think we've moved on, but we haven't dealt with the real feelings underneath it all. It's like trying to move forward while carrying a heavy weight in the back of your mind. It affects your actions, your relationships, and your sense of peace, even when you're not aware of it. When someone goes through a breakup or an emotional upheaval, they often assume that time will be the healer, that the pain will lessen with each passing day. But here's the catch. Time alone doesn't heal. It's how we use that time that makes all the difference. If you avoid facing the hurt, if you keep busy to distract yourself, if you refuse to truly process what happened, that pain will stay inside you, festering and holding you back. It's not just about moving on in a physical sense. It's about emotionally letting go, and that takes work. It takes reflection, understanding, and most importantly, acceptance. He might think that he's moved on, that he's emotionally detached, but the truth is, he hasn't truly processed the emotions that came with the relationship. Maybe he's blocking out the pain or refusing to acknowledge it, thinking that by ignoring it, it will go away. But that's not how healing works. The emotions that we suppress don't disappear. They simply find other ways to show up in our lives. They can affect our behavior, our decisions, and even the way we interact with the world around us. They show up when we least expect it, in our interactions with others, in our ability to trust, or in our fear of vulnerability. When you don't face your emotions, they can manifest in unhealthy ways. Anger, resentment, and even self-doubt can creep in, causing you to repeat the same mistakes or to close yourself off from new opportunities. And while you might think you're protecting yourself by avoiding the pain, you're actually only preventing yourself from truly healing. You can't fully move on until you confront the hurt, the loss, and the disappointment, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. He may be walking around thinking that he's emotionally free, but deep down, he's still holding on to something from the past. The truth is, it's impossible to truly move on if you haven't let go of the past in a healthy way. You can't just forget the connection, the shared moments, or the bond that was once there. Those things are part of your story, and they shaped who you are today. Moving on doesn't mean erasing that part of your life. It means accepting it, understanding it, and then choosing to move forward with a heart that's no longer weighed down by unprocessed pain. And this is where true freedom comes in. Moving on is not about suppressing your emotions or pretending that everything is fine when it's not. It's about acknowledging the truth, confronting the pain, and then making a conscious choice to release it. When you do that, you give yourself permission to heal, to grow, and to embrace the future without being constantly pulled back by the past. Only then can you truly say you've moved on, not just in your actions, but in your heart and soul as well. He may think he's moved on, but the truth is, moving on isn't just about putting distance between you and the person or situation that hurt you. It's not about pretending that everything is fine, covering up the cracks with a smile, or distracting yourself with anything that can momentarily fill the void. No, moving on requires far more than that. It's a deep, emotional process. It's about confronting your feelings, understanding why you're still holding on, and then letting go, piece by piece. The challenge is that many of us don't fully acknowledge the depth of our emotional attachment. We think that by simply severing the connection, by saying goodbye or walking away, we've truly moved on. But what's left inside? The emotional residue, the things unsaid, the feelings unaddressed. Those don't just vanish because time has passed. When we haven't processed everything we feel, when we haven't truly let go of the hurt and disappointment, we end up dragging it with us. And the mind can say one thing, but the heart, it holds on to things much longer. Sometimes, even when someone moves on physically, emotionally, there's still a part of them that hasn't really let go. And this unaddressed pain can impact every area of your life. It might influence the way you view relationships, the way you trust, or even the way you see yourself. And if you're not careful, that lingering hurt can trap you in the past, preventing you from fully embracing the future. We have to ask ourselves the hard question: are we really ready to move on? Or are we simply pretending because we want to avoid the discomfort that comes with fully confronting the situation? The real work comes when we dig deeper, when we sit with the pain and allow ourselves to feel everything we've been running from. Only when we've done that can we truly break free and allow ourselves to grow beyond what happened. Real healing takes time, and it doesn't happen in a single moment of realization. It's a gradual process, but it's a necessary one if you ever want to stop carrying that emotional weight. The truth is, you don't have to hold on to the past to protect yourself. You can heal and you can move forward, but it requires facing the discomfort, dealing with the hurt, and making peace with what happened. And once you've done that, once you've truly let go, only then can you begin to see the world and your future through a new, freer lens. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that moving on means erasing the past or pretending it never happened. But the reality is that the past is a part of you, and trying to erase it or hide from it only creates more damage. The pain you feel is real, and it deserves to be acknowledged. However, the key is to stop letting that pain define you. Holding on to it doesn't serve you, and it certainly doesn't serve your future. When you let go of someone, it's not about forgetting the good times or pretending that you never cared. It's about understanding that the relationship, no matter how significant, doesn't dictate your worth or the trajectory of your life. You are not defined by what happened to you. Yes, the breakup or the heartache may have been difficult, but it doesn't mean that it has to shape who you are or limit who you can become. The truth is that the real power comes when you stop looking for validation from someone who has already shown you that they couldn't value you the way you deserve. You don't need someone else's affirmation to feel complete. You don't need to remain stuck in that past to feel like you're worthy of love or success. In fact, when you let go and embrace your own power, that's when true healing begins. You will find your strength when you choose to take responsibility for your emotional well-being. It's about reclaiming your peace and focusing on what you can control, yourself. That's where the power lies. You are in charge of your emotions, your healing, and your future. You are not bound by what someone else did to you or how they treated you. Your destiny is yours to create. Letting go is not a weakness, it's a sign of strength. It's about knowing your value and not settling for less than you deserve. When you can walk away from someone who doesn't appreciate you, you take back control of your own life. You give yourself the opportunity to heal and to build a future that aligns with your worth. So remember, moving on is not about erasing the past. It's about embracing the future with a heart that's open and ready to receive what's meant for you. You don't need anyone's approval to validate your worth. Your strength, your resilience, and your journey forward are all within your grasp. Once you realize that, you'll understand that you're never truly alone in your healing process. You are whole on your own, and you always have been.